today on the Audio Hotline, I'm going to be taking you through 3 potential best vlogging microphones. Now, the reason that I think these microphones are really good for vlogging is that they have 2 capsules. Each of these 3 microphones has 1 capsule on the front and then 1 on the back. And the reason that's important when you're vlogging is that if you're talking to the camera like this, but you also want to point the camera at something and tell your audience about it, your audio is going to be bad if you're just using a front-facing microphone and you don't turn that microphone around. Now, these 3 microphones eliminate that problem. You don't have to turn your microphone around. You're still going to get stellar audio either way. Now, these 3 microphones are the Deity V-MIC D4 DUO, the Movo DoubleMic. I used an accent in my review for this little skit, and it's sticking, okay? I can't help it. DoubleMic! Movo DoubleMic! Okay. Woo! And then the last one is one that I actually haven't tested before. It is the 7RYMS Minbo M2. Okay, Bimbo isn't in the name, but also it's just kind of sticking. It rhymes, okay? But right now I'm just going to take you through some details, the accessories that come with these microphones. We'll talk about the specs very briefly in this, but then we'll go back, do some tests, do the comparison and everything like that, and see how they sound. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now we're back in the studio and I have a ridiculous setup going on here. I have all 3 microphones mounted right next to each other just so perfectly, and they're aimed down toward me, like they should be. I'll show you real quick. Here's what they look like. They're mounted with a little Rode thing and then another little adapter. It's kind of insane. During this review, I'll tell you what they're plugged into and how I'm recording it and everything. I'll usually just put it up on the screen so you can check that out. But throughout these different sections, I will just be switching through them, and I'll of course be labeling that on the screen as well. Before we jump into some stuff here in the studio, I do want to just disclaim a couple things. Throughout different times, these microphones have been sent to me. I believe that I actually purchased the Deity V-MIC D4 DUO, but Deity has sent me stuff in the past. But Movo did send me the DoubleMic, and 7RYMS did send me the Minbo M2. But I'm going to give you my opinion on all of them. I'm not told what to say in this comparison or how to review a certain microphone or anything like that. One more quick thing that I do want to talk about is price. Currently, as of May 2022, these are the prices. On Amazon, the Minbo M2 is $50. Minbo, M-I-N-B-O M2. I think sometimes when I'm calling it the Minbo, I sometimes put an M in there, but it is Minbo. The Deity V-MIC DUO is $68. $1 off from being awesome. $69. And the Movo DoubleMic is $49.95. $50. But now that we've gone through these little disclaimers and some of the basics of these microphones, now let me go ahead and quickly tell you what comes with each of these microphones. With the 7RYMS Minbo M2, you will get 2 furry windscreens, or wind muffs, whatever you want to call them. You will get a shock mount, a 3.5mm TRS to TRS cable, a very nice carrying case, and of course the 7RYMS Minbo M2 microphone itself. With the Movo DoubleMic, you will get 2 pretty small furry windscreens as well as 2 foam windscreens. Much like the 7RYMS, you will also get a carrying case, but this one is a little less substantial than the 7RYMS case. You will get a shock mount, a permanently attached TRRS cable that is, of course, attached to the microphone itself, the Movo DoubleMic. Now with the Deity V-MIC DUO, the accessories are a little bit more cut and dry. You will get 2 pretty substantial furry windscreens, a Rycote style shock mount like the other microphones, a TRS to TRS cable, and the microphone itself, the Deity V-MIC DUO. I can't really say all the accessories are created equally here. Probably the most bang for your buck with the 7RYMS. And the reason that I say that is because the furry little kitty windscreens are still very high quality. Unlike the Movo furry windscreens that are a little bit of a joke, like they're not great. But the 7RYMS does come with the case, much like the Movo DoubleMic. One thing that is nice about the Movo is that it does come with little foam windscreens also. But the one thing I am not a big fan of when it comes to the Movo DoubleMic is the fact that the cable's attached. It could really suck if that cable decides to die on you and you have to replace the whole microphone rather than just getting another 3.5mm cable. The other 2 microphones do have detachable cables, and I think that's fantastic. When it comes to the actual build quality of the microphones itself, like across the board, they're all really pretty solid, especially for the price. Sorry, I can't help but look up at them when I'm talking about them. My bad. They're all built really well. I would probably give a slight edge to Deity, but closely after that, I would say the 7RYMS, then followed by the Movo when it comes to build quality. I initially really did like the double shock mount that the 7RYMS came with, but I've actually found when the microphone isn't upside down, it can kind of slip out a little bit. It doesn't like fly off randomly or anything like that, but when you are putting it in and out of your bag, it can definitely fall off. But all the cables that come with these are really nice. They're all high quality. Just don't like the fact that the Movo one isn't detachable. I think that's a little silly. But now that we've talked about the accessories, let me go ahead and briefly talk about the features and how they're different on each of these microphones. On the 7RYMS Minbo M2, you will have one output. That's where you will put the 3.5mm TRS cable that goes out to your camera. Like all of the microphones in this comparison, there is a front capsule and a rear capsule. On the top of the microphone, there is a switch that allows you to enable just the front capsule or the front and the rear capsule. This microphone combines both capsules into one stereo mix. On the Movo DoubleMic, you will have a permanently attached cable, but on the side of the microphone, you will also have a headphone jack. Like the other mics, this does have a front and a rear capsule. And on top of the microphone, there are two different switches. The switch on the right allows you to switch between camera mode and phone mode, which basically tells the cable whether to be a TRS or TRRS connection. And the 3-position switch on the left allows you to enable the front capsule, the front plus rear capsule, or just the rear capsule. Like the Minbo M2, this will also sum everything to a stereo track. On the Deity D4 DUO, it will have an output. This is where you will connect the 3.5mm TRS cable to go to your camera or recording device. Also on that side of the microphone, there is an input. That input will actually allow you to connect another microphone. You could have that be a lavalier microphone, another shotgun microphone that's powered, or what I usually do is connect a wireless lav system. In order to get that input to work, this microphone will have to be in the front and rear switch mode. And speaking of that, there is a switch on top that will allow you to enable just the front capsule or the front plus rear capsule. When this microphone is in front plus rear capsule mode, it does not sum to a stereo track. It actually sends one capsule to the left side of the stereo track and the other capsule to the right side of the stereo track. And that's actually how the input works. It will be on one side of the stereo track while the front capsule is on the other side. I'm a really big fan of the options that the Movo gives you. I love the fact that you can go front, rear, or front plus rear. On the other two, you only get the option of going front or front plus rear. Being able to just do the rear one, I think, is also really cool. But when it comes to the functionality of these features, I actually like the Deity the most. Because when it actually combines the front and rear capsule, the front microphone will be on the left side and the back microphone will be on the right side. So if you accidentally just left the front and rear on the whole time on the Deity, it's not really a big issue. Because in post, you can just be like, hey, fill the right channel with the left's audio, and you just have the front capsule. You don't even have to worry about what was happening with the rear capsule. Or vice versa. But with these 7RYMS, it actually just combines it into a stereo channel. So there's no really changing that in post. So if you're talking into the front of your camera, but you accidentally left the front and rear capsule on, everything that rear capsule hears is still gonna be in that track. So that can kind of cause for an accidental messy situation. At least on the Movo, you could just use the front capsule, have the front selected. When you turn it around, just quickly flip the switch and go to the rear. That's great. But on the Minbo M2, that's a little bit of an issue for me. Now that all that's out of the way, I'm just going to briefly put the specs up on the screen. I'm not going to go through all of them. Usually I focus on specs a little bit more than this, but since it's a comparison, I don't want to waste a bunch of time going over everything. And to be honest with you, I don't think a lot of people that are into these microphones really care about the actual specs too much. Which is no problem. They just want to know how it works and if it works well. Now that we have all of that information out of the way, now let's go ahead and start testing it. Since we've kind of been doing a studio above the head test this whole time and I've been switching back and forth, we'll just say that one is complete. But now I'm going to go ahead and jump back to when I was outside and we'll go ahead and do like the wind rejection tests and a couple other little tests. Then we'll come back here and I'll do some fun tests in the studio and also outside in my backyard. Here's just a real quick wind test for the Movo DoubleMic. Right now I only have the front mic engaged. And here's how it sounds rejecting some of that wind. I would say the wind is like, you know, it's happening. It's pretty good wind. Pretty decent wind. And now here's the 7RYMS Minbo M2. And here's how it rejects the wind happening with just the front capsule engaged. But here's how the Movo DoubleMic sounds with both the capsules engaged with the wind happening right now. I'm just holding all the microphones like a weirdo. Here's how the 7RYMS Minbo rejects the wind with both capsules engaged. Now here is how the Deity D4 DUO sounds. I do have both capsules engaged, but with this it doesn't really matter because I can pick a left and a right in post. So right now it's just the front capsule engaged. If I wanted to engage the back capsule, I could do that by just selecting the right channel. But here is how the Deity D4 DUO rejects the same wind, and actually the wind has been relatively consistent, which is nice. Now here's how it sounds when you talk into the back of the Movo DoubleMic, just the rear capsule engaged. Now here is how the Minbo M2 sounds when you're talking into the back of the microphone. Now here's how the Deity D4 DUO sounds when you're talking into the back of the microphone. I've been about, arm distance away from all of these, as you would assume. But it's hot. It's time to go back to the studio, do some studio tests. I'm over this warmth. Well, actually, there's one more real quick test that we gotta do before we go back to the studio. I know how you vloggers love driving in your little Fords. I'm in my Ford like Peter McKinnon. And here's how it sounds if you're using the Deity DUO, driving in your little car. Don't worry, I'm on a dirt road where no one's at. Now we're vlogging in the car like Peter McKinnon again with the 7RYMS Minbo M2. Here's how that sounds. You got your Cran and you got your Ford. What else do you need? I'm actually using a Sony today, but usually I use Canon, so... Now we got the Movo DoubleMic plugged in. Here's how the vlog and drive test sounds with that. And I was being totally idiotic. I forgot one thing. You got your Canon, you got your Ford, and you got your coffee. I forgot about the coffee thing. But no worries, I got that too. But this has been your quick little vlogging driving test. You be responsible out there, kiddos. Okay, now we can go back to the studio, I think. So one test I wanted to do was with the Sony ZV-1, since it is a very popular vlogging camera. I wanted to see how these microphones sounded actually going into this camera. So as you can see right now, I'm about arm distance away, and I'm using the 7RYMS Minbo M2. This is with the audio trying to hit negative 12 decibels on Sony's audio meter, and the gain level is set at 10. Now once again, I'm at arm's length on the Sony ZV-1, and now I have the Deity D4 DUO plugged in. Deity microphones just tend to be a little bit louder, so I did turn the audio level down to 8 in the Sony ZV-1, but here's how the Deity sounds going into the Sony ZV-1. Now here's how the Movo DoubleMic sounds going into the Sony ZV-1. Once again, I do have the audio level set at 10, which is good that you don't have to turn these Sony preamps up too much with these microphones, because camera preamps really just aren't that great. But once again, at arm's distance, negative 12 decibels, here's how the Movo sounds. Now I'm using one of my favorite ways to record a microphone like this. I'm actually using the Zoom H1N. I have it set at about 55% gain going into the line in, and I love using the Zoom H1N because then you actually get to monitor your audio with the headphone jack, which I will say is a pretty big pro when it comes to the Movo DoubleMic. But now I want to do more of a studio environment test, kind of more of the usual ones that I do. But let's go ahead and get started with a proximity effect test.
So I think this microphone is broken.
Well, I'm a little bummed here. The Movo DoubleMic just decided to crap out on me. I've had it for quite a while and I've used it quite a bit, but this is the problem with having a permanently attached cable. Like, it could be as simple as just fixing that, but I can't do that unless I really try, I guess. Oh, that wasn't good. I mean, Movo does have great people working for them. I'm sure they'll replace it, but it does make me a little bummed that I'm not going to be able to use it in the rest of this comparison. At least you got to hear a little bit of it, I guess. And it does have some cool features like I've talked about, but, yeah. If you get right up on the 7RYMS Minbo M2, here's how it sounds. You probably shouldn't be getting this close to a microphone like this, but oh well. If you get really close to the Deity D4 DUO, here's how it sounds. Now if I get really super duper ultra close to the Minbo M2 with the furry windscreen on, here's how it sounds. It definitely cuts out some of that air. If you get really close to the Deity D4 DUO with the furry windscreen on, here's how it sounds. Now here's the sound of the back capsule when I'm really close to it. Ooh, that's bad. Now here's how the back capsule sounds on the Deity D4 DUO when you get really close to it. Now here's how it sounds when I'm really close to the back capsule with the furry windscreen on. Now when you get really close to the Deity D4 DUO with the furry windscreen on, here's how it sounds. Now fair warning, this next part is going to be very, very loud. Let's do some plosives. Plosive test with some pickled peanuts. Plosive pickled peanuts. pickled peanuts. Plosive test with some pickled peanuts. Plosive pickled peanuts. Pickled peanuts. Plosive test with some pickled peanuts. Plosive pickled peanuts. Pickled peanuts. Plosive test with some pickled peanuts. Plosive pickled peanuts. Pickled peanuts. But if you were to have it this distance away so you didn't get any plosives or any issues like that, and you decided to, put some compression on it, maybe some limiting, here's how some post-processing would sound. However, I'm not going to put EQ on it or anything like that, maybe just a high-pass filter is all. Now here's the front capsule of the Deity D4 DUO with that same post-processing on that I had with the 7RYMS Minbo M2. And here's how it would sound if you wanted to put some compression, maybe some limiting, maybe some noise reduction on. I'll label whatever I do. Time for a kitty PURR test. Right now I actually have the 7RYMS Minbo M2 plugged into my iPhone 12 Pro. I actually just have it going into the native video app, which isn't the best choice because I can't control the actual gain level. So hopefully I'm not clipping or anything like that. But while we're doing this phone test, we'll test out the different windscreens and capsules indoors. So we'll start with all the microphones not having a windscreen or anything on them. And here is the first test with no windscreen and the front capsule on the Minbo M2. Now this is the Deity D4 DUO going into the iPhone 12 Pro, just into the native video app. This is the Deity D4 DUO's front capsule, no windscreen. This is the M2's front capsule with a windscreen on. This is the Deity D4's front capsule with a foam windscreen on. Now here's the back capsule on the Minbo M2, no windscreen. This is the Deity D4 DUO's back capsule, no foam windscreen. Now here's the M2 with a windscreen on, and this is the back capsule. I'm outside again right now. I have the Deity plugged in. There's birds overhead. There's a lot of wind happening. Bunch of stuff. So now we're just going to do a real quick distance test between the Deity and the Minbo. Sadly, the Movo microphone died before I could do this part. Right now I'm about 2 feet away from the microphone. Now I'm just a couple feet away from the 7RYMS Minbo. Now I'm about 6 feet away from the microphone. Here's about 6 feet away on the 7RYMS microphone. But that's actually the nice thing about the Deity, since it has that input. You can actually just use a wireless lav like I'm using right now with the Rode Wireless Go. And here's how the lav sounds going straight into the Deity, and then the Deity is actually going into the camera. Here's about 12 feet away on the 7RYMS microphone. Now sadly the Minbo doesn't have that same feature as the Deity where I can send another signal into the microphone. So further away this microphone just isn't going to sound great, and there isn't that alternative to use like a wireless lav system or something like that. Now that my neighbors think I'm a psychopath, let's go inside. Here is just a real quick test for the Deity D4 DUO in a very untreated room. This room is very reverberant, and I am just using the front capsule. Now we have the Minbo M2 plugged in a very untreated room, and here is how that sounds. So right here is just the front capsule, but here is the Minbo M2, both capsules engaged in an untreated room. Well, now that we've gone through and tested all these out, went through the basics and the specs and everything, now I'm ready to give you my review, my opinion of the Deity D4 DUO, the 7RYMS Minbo M2, and I guess the Movo DoubleMic. Like I said before, I am bummed about the Movo DoubleMic, but it is a good microphone. It did last me a while, but I don't want to make excuses for it. This sucks. What can you do? But I do just want to say don't absolutely overlook this, especially for one particular kind of person. If you go back and forth between your phone and your camera a absolute ton, and you don't want to carry around an extra adapter, and you're willing to take the risk that this could bail out on you, I guess, then I think the Movo DoubleMic is actually a really good choice. Being able to switch between the smartphone mode and the camera mode is great. I absolutely loved being able to switch between the front and the rear capsules, as well as the front plus rear mode. Maybe all these switches were its downfall, but it could have been the cable, I'm not sure. Having the headphone jack on the Movo is also another really big deal, because some people that maybe have, beginner cameras, not all those cameras come with headphone jack, so being able to use the headphone jack on here might be a game changer and might be a deal breaker for these other microphones. So I do think the Movo DoubleMic is still solid. I'm a little bugged by the reliability that I've experienced with it, but don't get me wrong, I am pretty hard on my stuff. Now, I do think that the sound, when it comes to sound alone, between these three microphones, I think the Deity Duo takes it. I like the sound of it the most, and I do like the functionality of having a stereo track where the front capsule is on one side and the rear capsule is on the other. It makes for a better sound. You're not getting as much noise into your signal as you do with the Minbo. If the Minbo is able to split those tracks, it would make a big difference. However, not everyone wants to get into post-production and be like, hey, I need to fix my audio, fill the right with the left or fill the left with the right. Some people don't want to accidentally forget to do that. So for the people that just kind of want the back and the front to work all the time, or just to be able to switch to just the front at times, the 7RYMS would be a good choice if you don't want to make those choices in post-production. For me, I'm so audio focused that it doesn't matter to me. I would rather get the better audio that you can get with the Deity, because I do like the sound better, and also being able to split those tracks in post, I think is fantastic for a person like me. But if you don't want that hassle, 7RYMS is good. And to talk up the Deity Duo a little bit more, it having that input jack I think is absolutely fantastic. Being able to plug a lav into that and getting a second sound source I think is so genius. When it comes to wind rejection, I think the Deity did really good, and the Movo definitely did the worst. So if wind rejection is important to you, the Movo is not a good choice. These are silly. These are a joke. No. But speaking of wind rejection, can I just say, these windscreens for these 7RYMS are like nearly impossible to put on here. They are so difficult. It is very frustrating. And every time you're putting the foam windscreen on and you're using the shock mount to, like actually grab the mic, the shock mount's gonna fall off every time. No joke. Like, look at that, barely wiggling. Barely. Awesome. But the one thing I do have to give the 7RYMS and the Movo is the fact that they do come with little cases, which is nice. But let me go ahead and just grade all three of these microphones really quick. But when it comes to grading the Deity D4 DUO, coming in at $68, I would give it an A. Now when it comes to the 7RYMS Minbo M2, I would give this a C+. Now after using the Movo DoubleMic for a while, I do have a full review of it and everything, and I will say that with the reliability issue, it's kind of dropped my love for it a little bit. But if this was still fully functional and everything, I would actually put this a little bit above the 7RYMS Minbo M2, and I would give it a B. But considering the reliability issue that I just had, I do have to put it under the Minbo, and I gotta give it a C-. Now, I do think this packs a lot of features in, and it gives you a lot of accessories and everything for $50, but this is just a really big bummer, and I'm having a hard time looking past it. But thank you for watching this comparison of the Deity, the 7RYMS, and the Movo. Hopefully it helped you out, helped you decide whether you want to pick one of these up or not, but most of all, I hope you had fun. Stay tuned for a lot more comparisons, reviews, tutorials, live streams, a bunch of stuff. And a big thank you to everyone that is a member of the audio hotline, all these lovely people up here listed. You guys are the absolute best. And also a thank you to everyone that watches and subscribes. You guys are also great. A little less great than the members, but still great. And a big thank you to all of these companies for sending me stuff at some point or another. But thank you all for watching the audio hotline. I'll see you audio nerds next time.